let's try to jump into the actual the smart seeder. Your so there's a couple models, and I'm going to let you sort of approach it because I don't think I don't think my questions are going to set you up any better. So I'm just going to throw it over to you. Can you
Sure.
talk about some of the different components? And I know you've already touched on them, but can you just sort of outline the technical aspects of the seeder?
Mhm. So the Smart Cedar Max and Max S, and I'll dive into it. We're based around kind of three value propositions, and I've touched on a little bit on them. And again, this was to design a whole new class of planting and seeding technology. The first is that we change the way we engage in the ground, and I'll explain that in a second. The second is we talk about that metering technology, which both planters and seeders have some significant challenges on. And the third is, and you've heard this, as other companies have gone public, and you hear technology is data is in agriculture. This data is everywhere. We're collecting all this data. Well, it's kind of a fun fact that especially the guys in agriculture, is yeah, it's great to collect data, but what do you do with it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of data gathering platforms, that GIS platforms that basically consolidate this data. But in terms of analytics, is one part of it. Is what does it mean? And then the second part is there something you can actually do with it? And so we focused on being able to take that data and make it actionable with the Smart Cedar Max. So there's two kind of commercial models that we've rolled out. One is called the Smart Cedar Max, and the other one is called the Smart Cedar Max S. And the only differentiation is the Smart Cedar Max S has singulation as well as what we call volumetric seeding. So we pioneered really electric stepper motor metering technology over top of each row. And so the Smart Seeder Max has four of those meters per row. So if you think about a 60-foot wide machine, which is an average size machine, especially in the prairies here in Canada, Saskatchewan, on here. It sounds maybe big to if you're in downtown a city somewhere, but it is a kind of an average size machine. Now that machine has 60 rows. That means we're on 12-inch spacing. Each one of those rows has four volumetric meters on. So if you do the math on this, 60 times four, we have 240 electric motors that essentially become a giant printer for four independent volumetric products. Now the first thing we have is now we don't have that randomness that air is distributing. We're literally like a giant printer across the field. If you just think about your inkjet or your laser printer that prints that picture on there, they all come from dots of ink, and that's essentially what we're doing across the field. Um, Now the S adds something that the planters have, which is singulation, the ability to pick up one seed at a time. So we take that Smart Seeder Max, which is the four volumetric products, and we change it. We actually add what we call SAS singulation meter, the ability in canola, corn, soybeans to pick up one seed at a time and put that in the ground one at a time. And whatever plant population that your farm, your soil type, your agronomist, or your data dictates that you want to put it down there. So now what we've done is we've taken the best of what we call the air seeder technologies, which were really efficient one-pass machines that could put fertility down, but we're doing it on a foot-by-foot basis. And we took what planters did well, which was the singulation part of it, and the ability to put one seed at the time in the ground. And we've combined those technologies on the metering side. So first of all, that's never been done at this precision level. So the industry is really excited to see us commercialize this, because that's a huge part of the value proposition. Because anytime you can limit seeds, and seeds are very expensive, and maybe you buy it in your garden, you get a small pack of seeds which might have 20 or 50 seeds in it, and it's you pay $5 for it, and you think, well, that's not bad. Well, imagine putting that not just in your little garden box, but essentially over 5,000 acres. Just for the math, is a half mile by a half mile. That's 160 acres, as we call that a quarter section in agriculture. So seed costs are hugely expensive, and if you can limit them in terms of the amount you have to put in the soil by putting them optimally in the soil, it's a huge saving. Canola is a huge crop we have in Western Canada, northern US as well. And canola has kind of recently hit a huge high on a commercial basis just because of the oil content. We've had new facilities being built here for crushing capability, but one bushel of canola is now is over $20 Canadian per bushel. Now, just for reference, it came from about $11 a year ago, so we've almost doubled that commodity on here. But the price of canola seed, just think about how much a pound weighs, can be over $15 to $17 per pound. And most farmers with air seeders would need to put 4 to 5 pounds per acre. So if you can save a farmer on seed costs and grow the same yield of crop, 45 to $60 in seed cost per acre, now we're almost talking about what the margin they're used to making. So only one technology with singulation and the ability to put seeds down at a prescribed rate saves farmers money. And that's not even to talk about the yield side, but that's just the saving side. So that's what the Smart Seeder Max and Max S do. The S has a singulation. The Max is designed to be a price point machine, really to compete against that air seeder market. So the S is a premium machine. The Max is more of our entry level machine, designed to get a price point more similar to the air seeder competitors that are out there in the market. So metering has been a big part of what we do. The next part is we change the way we engage the ground. Air seeders and planters have been doing really the same thing for years and years and years, and they're not ideal to put seeds in the ground, and they're not ideal necessarily to put fertility with those seeds. So our opener technology, our DX opener, we really invented a new way of doing it, and it's under one of our patents. Is we have a big saw blade essentially at the front of each row that cuts through trash. And why that's important is when you harvest a crop, there's a lot of material that just because we gets flung out the back of a combine. And if you imagine cutting your grass on those heavy days where you waited a little bit too long, and now there's grass everywhere on top. Well, that's essentially what a big yield on from a harvest does. And what you would do is you would seed right into that traditionally. Now, most planters and seeders can't do that. They require almost that analogy of mowing your grass, where you have to mow it twice
Yeah.
before it looks nice. Well, we do the same thing in agriculture, is because our seeders to place a single little tiny seed that would fit in your hand at an optimal depth in the soil. Well, all that material kind of gets mixed in there, so that's very tough to go through. Well, our opener technology was really designed to cut and part that organic matter and put that seed at an optimal seeding depth. So that was an exciting advent of there, and that opening technology does a couple things. One is it allows us to go across a field that's either unconditioned or relatively unconditioned, unlike what planters and air seeders need. The second part of it is by preserving that organic matter, we get into something which I know you're going to talk about a lot of your subscribers, which is carbon sequestration.
Mhm.
There's a fun fact that we talk about no-till seeding and your minimum tillage seeding, and if you think about the two things, is if you see soils that are black that you're driving by on the highway, those would be zero tillage, and they're not a very sustainable way of doing things anymore. Those are the things that brought on the dirty 30s and the soil blowing across the landscape. Well, especially farmers in Canada have moved to more of a minimum tillage environment. But every time that we break up the organic matter and make it black, we actually lose organic matter. The
Mm.
second we lose organic matter, we lose that soil's ability to sink carbon and carbon dioxide into the soils, which play a huge role in meeting our climate our climate goals for that. So the ability to limit the passes and do everything in a single pass is going to build organic matter. And for instance, a 1% increase in organic matter. So if you think about, most soils are probably between zero, which is that black one, and a heavy one, you might be, 10, 11, 12%. Every 1% gain in organic matter across a field will essentially sequester an extra 20 tons of carbon per acre. So it's fairly significant. It's almost more significant than anything else we do, in terms of automobile or electrification. Agriculture plays a huge role, and it's been understated. And technologies that can, give you crop growth, yield savings, and sustainability, which is carbon sequestration. That's a huge advent on there, especially now that there's carbon markets that are willing to pay farmers for those things.
Mm.
There's a lot there. I want to get into some of the ability to manage foot by foot, but the Smart Seeder Max and Max has a really game changing digital planting and seeding technologies. We do things differently than they've been done before, and we've been out in the field proving these technologies out for a long time. And we're very happy that we're heading into our first order program here at the end of May.